Hello, universe. Welcome to the most spectacular wrestling podcast you will find on the internet. You are listening to Tag Me In, bro. I'm Joe Tantillo, and as always, I'm seated next to my terrific co-host, Taryn O'Connor. Say hi to the people, Taryn.
Hi to the people, Taryn.
If you're new to the show, the format is simple. Each week, we discuss all the magnificent moments, turbulent times, and stunning surprises that professional wrestling has to offer.
So turn your radio up and your opinions down, because we've got some hot tags coming up NXT, which means next.
Give me a hell yeah! I said give me a hell yeah!
What's up, universe? It's Joe Tantillo coming to you live from Buffalo, New York, and we are going to be talking all things Raw today. I'm joined by my brother, John Tantillo, my real-life bro from the same mo at BFLO Codebreaker on Twitter. Say hi to the people, John.
It's me. It's JJT.
Perfect. He's nailed it. He's been working on his intro for weeks. He's finally got the right one. I don't have to punch him in the face, because I don't like to hit you, but you're my brother, and sometimes I gotta smack you around a little bit.
That's not cool, man. You should not encourage that on radio.
Nah, we're family. It's okay. Another Raw has come and gone. We're getting closer to Money in the Bank. We were left with a lot of questions from what was a subpar Raw in the opinion of us and most of our followers. The women's gauntlet match time was very questionable. You had Nia's heel turn, which happened, I guess, the previous week, but now she's really a heel, but she doesn't seem full-blown. It's more cocky, but a lot of people have problems with it. We're going to talk about that. You have Balor's new build, or is it a burial? Some people are saying it is. Some people are saying it's not. We're definitely going to talk about that and try to gauge your opinion more. You had a weak-ass tag division, and of course you had no Roman Reigns. Not to mention no Brock Lesnar, of course, but we're going to talk about that in next week's episode in depth. Anyway, folks, you don't want to miss out on 1 second of Tag Me In Bro content, so go on Twitter right now and follow us at Tag Me In Bro. You can join our over 5,000 followers in our weekly conversations, debates, discussions, polls, etc. Now, I hope everyone is excited for the show because it is about to go down in a big way. Today, tomorrow, and every day, we are talking wrestling. First things first, we'll cover the Raw Rundown, where we'll give you our analysis of the most important bits of last night's show. After that, we've got our Hi to the People segment, where we engage the audience to find out more about your views on various topics. This week's being, do you think that Finn's current booking is building him or burying him? Then we'll take a trip to the Indie Corner. After that, we're going to move on to our main event, where we talk about the question on everyone's mind this week. And this week, that question is, what were the problems with the women's gauntlet match? And finally, of course, we will close out the show the same way that we do every night with our stars of the night. So first things first, let's get to that Raw Rundown. Woo! Here are the only 5 things you need to know about Monday Night Raw this week. Number 5, Balor-Braun rematch. Number 4, McIntyre vs. Gable. Number 3, Nia intimidates Ronda. Number 2, Elias attacks Rollins post-match. And number 1, Bank on Banks. Alright, let's start with number 5. You had that Balor-Braun rematch from the previous week, and I loved it. I love the match last week especially, but this week I actually thought the booking was even better. John, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, they're doing a really good job with Finn right now, in my personal opinion. I know a lot of people think he's getting buried, but I think the spot he's in against Braun is kind of doing him a lot of good. Like, he was 100% in kayfabe about to beat Braun, which is incredible, before he got disqualified. He did get a win by DQ, so that's good. At least he's got that on record. But yeah, I like where it's going.
I think he's being made to be seen as a power player, someone who can actually compete with the Giants and the main event stars. I think it bodes really well for his future and perhaps a return to that main event Universal title picture. We'll have to see where it goes. I'm with you. I don't think he's being buried, but some people think that just having him fight Braun and not actually win is a burial. I understand how you could approach it that way, but I would have to disagree personally. I think if you look closely at what's happened, he's actually been made to look very strong. Because let's be honest, Finn's not going to beat Braun on some random episode of Raw. Just that stuff like that just doesn't happen. Nobody's going to beat Braun on a random episode of Raw. So let's take what we can get and move forward. Speaking of moving forward, up next, Drew McIntyre versus Chad Gable. What was a pretty good match. Chad Gable always wrestles good matches, as does Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre continues to be my favorite person on the Raw roster right now, other than Seth Rollins. Would really, really like to see him be the Universal Champion. I think, in my eyes, there's really not anyone else who could do it right now, other than Rollins or Braun. It is really just the three of them. John, what are your thoughts on just kind of Drew in general in that match?
Well, I love Drew. I especially love the pairing of Drew and Ziggler. I am a huge fan of Ziggler, for those who don't know. Always have been, always will be. Stuck with him through terrible times and the best of times. But I love their pairing. I love Drew. He was amazing in NXT. I really am enjoying his heel work. It was a super unexpected turn of events for his return, and I think it's working out really well. But yeah, him and Chad Gable are both incredible performers. Interesting to see where this feud will go. I've heard rumors of a American Alpha reunion, which could be a mistake, could be good. We'll see how it turns out, but I am excited to see how it progresses.
Up next, Nia intimidates Ronda. Now, there's a lot of people saying that, Nia had the whole thing where she was being bullied by Alexa, and now she is bullying Ronda. So I have to put my foot down here. From everything that I have seen thus far, and perhaps I have been not paying close enough attention, I would not call what Nia is doing bullying. There's a difference between being a dick and being a bully, and I think Nia's just kind of being a dick. In the situation where Nia was being bullied, it was very much about her weight and her personal appearance, and it was talking behind her back and all that classic, bully stuff. Nia is really just trying to intimidate and muscle Ronda. She really hasn't said anything about her size or appearance, or not that I've caught, and I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, send me the link on Twitter. But to just be like, oh, Nia's a bully now, it's not really true. She's playing the dominant heel champion, and I actually think that she's doing really good work. I liked her as face. I wish they didn't turn her. And this always happens, like when WWE has some person that they want to push, they'll ruin other people's really good characters just to get their own agenda ahead, which is exactly what they're doing with Ronda. But I think Nia's doing a good job. I would have much rather had Ronda turn heel here. That would have done a lot more for me, for her character. I think it would have been more surprising. And if she had then just continued to bully Nia, that would have been a really interesting continuation of the storyline that Nia was already in as this, symbol for people who have been bullied. But we'll see where that is going to go. John, any thoughts on that quickly?
I actually am of the opinion that I don't think this heel turn is going to last. I think it's just some sort of vehicle for Ronda in this feud. And I think in the event that Nia retains, she will go back to being a face champion. I do think she's just kind of playing the heel in this situation because the turn was kind of murky and unclear. So I think she will go back to being face as soon as this is over.
Up next, Elias attacked Seth Rollins. Elias came out to do his little concert as usual. Rollins interrupted to have a match with Jinder, which was a pretty good match, but ended in no contest. Mm-hmm. And then after the match, Elias smashed Seth Rollins with his guitar and did some pretty devastating damage. So it looks like Elias is headed towards a feud with Seth Rollins, and I think that this feud is going to be spectacular. There are rumors that Elias is headed towards a major push, and this is going to be the first of many title opportunities. We'll see how it pans out. John, what do you think?
I love this feud. I think these two are made for each other, not just in the similarities of their faces, but in the complementary styles that they wrestle. I love Elias. I love his character work. I love Rollins. I love his just spectacular ability in the ring. And we are going to get some barn burners from these guys.
Yeah, there's a lot of good wrestling to be had, and I think actually even better promos is what I'm really excited about, because Seth's a fantastic promo, and so is Elias. All right, final thing, Bank on Banks. Sasha Banks won the final spot for the women's Money in the Bank ladder match in what was a piss-poor gauntlet match, in our opinion, though she was pretty terrific in it. I had a lot of problems with this match, but we're not actually going to talk about it now because we're talking about it in the main event. So that is going to finish up our Raw rundown. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the Raw rundown. We thought the episode was subpar. Let us know your thoughts on social media. And speaking of social media, it is time to say hi to the people. This week on Hi to the People, we want to know your thoughts on, is Finn being built or buried? Based on his current booking and storyline, a lot of people have been divided on this question, and we want to know exactly what you think. We'll be running a Twitter poll for the next 72 hours and discussing the results here on our show next week, so let us know exactly what you think about that. You can vote on Twitter by tweeting at us or using the hashtag #HotTag, or email us at tagmeandbro@gmail.com if you still use electronic mail, to share your opinion and maybe have your thoughts read out on the show, and every week we read out some of our favorite responses. Now let's talk about the results of last week's topic. We asked you, was Lashley Sisters the worst Raw segment of all time? And you said yes. Overwhelmingly, 63% of you said yes and 37% of you said no. But I must admit that in our comments and feedback, there were a lot of people pulling for some other segments. At STR909 said Katie Vick. At RJ_Krasinski said, Bailey, this is your life. At the Barry Potter said, Katie Vick will always be not only the worst wrestling segment, but one of the worst things ever broadcast on TV. I have to agree. It was pretty horrible. I think a lot of our followers are quite young like ourselves and perhaps aren't as caught up on some of the Attitude Era stuff as they may like to be, but go back and do yourself a disservice and watch the Katie Vick segment. It is truly horrible. As was Lashley Sisters, as is Bailey, This Is Your Life. There's been a lot of crap in the last 2 years at WWE, but there's always been a lot of crap in WWE, because WWE is to wrestling as pop is to music. It's just there to appease the masses, and every once in a while you get an uptown funk. That has been Hi to the People. Very interested to see your thoughts on Finn's current booking, and we'll talk about that next time.
Bullet Club is fine.
Let's take a spin to the Indie Corner real quick. We're talking about the Best of the Super Juniors. The tournament happens every year, presented by New Japan Pro Wrestling. It is going on presently. There have been some terrific matches from the likes of Flip Gordon and Tiger Mask 4. If you have not watched any of the matches yet, do yourself a favor and go online to New Japan World and check those out. We'll talk about this tournament more as it gets into the finals, but just this week, a recommendation, definitely give it a try if you're just a pure WWE listener, which the majority of our fans are. You want to try some other things, this is a good tournament to get into if you like cruiserweight style wrestling, fast-paced, but much better than what they've got going on 205 Live, and that's saying a lot because you know I love 205 Live. Anyway, that's been this week's Indie Corner. Check out Best of the Super Juniors.
Nobody is ready for Oscar!
And now, it's time for the main event!
Welcome to Main Event. On this week, we are talking about why that women's gauntlet match was problematic and why people were not so pleased with what happened. So, John, why don't you walk us through the gauntlet match step by step, and then we'll lay out some of our criticism.
All right. So I know we were all excited last week when we heard that there was going to be a women's gauntlet match on this week's episode of Raw. We all have fond memories of the men's gauntlet match, which stretched on for nearly 2 hours and was just absolutely incredible. We were hoping this is going to be how they compete with Game 7 of Golden State versus Rockets. And it just was bad. It was very bad from the first moment. So let's walk through this step by step. Bailey entered in number 1, as she always does, because she has to be an underdog on the modern product. She was followed by Liv Morgan. They both got into the ring. Bell rings, Bailey to Belly. 1, 2, 3. Liv is out because jobbers. We don't need actual competitors in the women's division anymore. And shortly after that, Sarah Logan came out. She fought Bailey for a little bit. Bailey pins Sarah Logan because burials. And after that, Ruby Riott comes out. Bailey gets jumped by the remaining members of the Riott Squad. And she goes at it with Ruby for a little bit. She gets the upper hand. Ruby gets the upper hand. Riott kick 1, 2, 3. And then Dana Brooke comes out because she wrestles. And she is very quickly dispatched by Ruby Riott, who is looking very strong at this point. Then we get Mickie James, hometown hero, to a huge pop. Ruby and Mickie wrestle for a while. This was a really entertaining back and forth. Mickie James has still got it. She is one of my absolute favorites in the Raw women's division at the moment. But she is once again dispatched by Ruby Riott. And then Sasha Banks. It's boss time, always on Raw. And they go at it, Ruby and Sasha, for about probably less than 10 minutes. And it was very, very good. Both of these women are incredibly talented. I love to watch them perform. But I have to disagree with Sasha getting the win with the bank statement through a Riott Squad interference. But that's how it went. So, Joe, what do you think about all this?
All right, first things first, you guys know that I am completely over Sasha Banks, despite the fact that she is one of the 4 horsewomen, despite the fact that she is very talented. Sasha Banks as a face does absolutely nothing for me. I talk about it all the time. I think she is really cringy as a face. I don't think she is compelling as an underdog or a hero. If you've seen her heel work, it's just so much better that I can never see her as anything but that. There are some wrestlers who just can't go back and forth between the two, and she is one of them. So to have her win here, I just disagree with, first of all, on a basis of I don't like her that much. That's not to say she's not talented. She's just not one of my favorites. Bias aside, this was confusing to me because Sasha isn't really a Money in the Bank type person, but the company obviously loves her, so they try to put as many big names into Money in the Bank as possible. But that makes me confused because you have frickin' Lana and Natalya in the match, who are not hugely popular. There's been a lot of problems with the current lineup for this match. Anyway, back to the Gauntlet match. Ruby Riott was my number 1 favorite to actually win Money in the Bank because her storyline and her performance thus far on the main roster makes the most sense for her to actually win that match and be Miss Money in the Bank and cash in successfully, and yet she has not made it into the match, so I find it incredibly problematic that not only did she not qualify, she missed out because she got just straight up beat. Like, she just got beat and with her lackeys still couldn't win, which in my opinion makes her look terrible. So I disagree with that. Now let's talk about one of the other problems with this. Why is Bailey constantly just pushed to the bottom? Why does she have to be this underdog all the time, but she never actually wins anything? I don't understand why they hate Bailey. I honestly think she could have been the female John Cena and had a whole never give up thing as well.
She's got almost like a Bray Wyatt syndrome right now. Like, she's always in these big matches and she just loses constantly.
Yeah, and people have turned on her massively. People aren't into Bailey anymore, and I will always love Bailey because I think she is great. It's like people cling to Bray Wyatt and hopefully they can resurrect her someday. Maybe she needs to get deleted. Could you imagine Woken Bailey? That would actually be amazing.
That sounds. Someone book it.
Woken Bailey.
Send it to us on Twitter.
But anyway, I don't understand their need to just bury her. Dana Brooke was in that match, wasn't she? Somewhere.
I don't know. Probably.
Yeah.
Does she still work here?
She has been treated horribly. Just the Raw women's division is weak. It's really, really weak. When you look at how good the SmackDown women's division is by comparison, the Raw women's division just has they've got strong talent, but they just have done nothing with it, and it's really disappointing. And let me talk about, for just a hot second, why the fuck are the women only getting 27 and a half minutes when the men got 101 minutes?
Yeah, remember that time that John Cena fought Seth Rollins in the Gauntlet match and Rollins squashed him?
Yeah.
No, we don't, because that would never happen.
Yeah. Like, why do you have to make... Like, every single man in the men's gauntlet match looked strong. And I understand that the women's division is smaller, so in theory, some people have to be jobbers. But, like, shouldn't it be the opposite? Like, shouldn't everyone be a competitor? Like, how the tag divisions work? You know, maybe have 1 or 2, not, like, 5 out of 7. I mean, you really only Bailey, Sasha, and Ruby had a chance to win that match based on how they actually booked it. Everyone else was a joke. Like... what are they doing? Like, I don't understand. This is when it is evident to me, and we talk about this all the time on this show, that there are very few female writers and producers in WWE. They do not understand how to handle the women and how to make them on the same level as the men. Like, they just, no matter what they do, they keep fucking up at every single opportunity to do the right thing. They do the wrong thing.
And really, one of the main problems, as Joe mentioned, but I also have an issue with, is why have Sasha win here? She doesn't need it. She is a 4-time champion already and is in a long-term feud with Bailey. So why then does she need to be in Money in the Bank?
Unless the plan is to definitively have Bailey turn heel at Money in the Bank, which I disagree with.
That's
I've
a
talked
huge
about it on the show before.
huge mistake.
But if the plan is to have Sasha be climbing the ladder and Bailey to come in and cost her the match like Bray Wyatt did to Roman Reigns a few years back, then the booking makes sense. If it does not happen, it is just a further continuation of the utter botching of this entire long-term feud, which they have completely fumbled.
When Mandy Rose is getting treated better than 80% of the Raw women's division, there's something going on, and something needs to be fixed.
Lana has better booking than everyone on Raw right now, except for Nia and Ronda. And I don't know what Alexa's doing. She's kind of disappeared as well.
Honestly, probably for the better. She doesn't need to get mixed up in all of this. She's too good.
Yeah.
They don't need to ruin her.
But this match was just... It just sucked. Like, it just... Like you said, you're going up against Game 7 of the NBA Finals. You think you want to put your best foot forward, but they did the opposite. They just phoned it in.
Really, honestly, the first match being a squash against Liv Morgan it killed it immediately. Why do you need to do that to Liv Morgan? I mean, she's one of the newer main roster members. She's talented. She's got potential, and you bury her. You bury her against someone that you don't even treat that well.
Yeah, I know. You're burying her against someone who you're also burying, which is just really confusing.
What sense does that make?
It doesn't. It's just...
No one on the Raw Women's division needs to be a jobber right now. It's too small of a division and too fragile of a division right now. They don't... If you're going to have jobbers, bring in local talent.
Exactly. Everyone in the SmackDown Women's division is a competitor. Every single person in that division has a legitimate possibility to win the SmackDown Women's title. On Raw, it's just not the case, and I don't know why it's presented in that way.
It really it blows my mind that they could mess it up this much when everyone was excited for it. They had a great time slot for it. They could have made something huge. Could have started the show like the men's one did. How great was that?
That's what I thought was going to happen. I was hoping it would be like the first 2 hours or the last 2 hours. Like, none of the stuff that happened on this show was that important. It was a very mediocre Raw. Like, honestly, they could have just done the 2-hour-long women's gauntlet match, and it would have been terrific. Like, people would have been talking about it more. And, they're always talking about how they want to give these women opportunities, but then when they only want to give them forced, fake history-making opportunities, not true opportunities. The opportunities don't come in having the first ever women's Hell in a Cell, the first ever women's Royal Rumble. It's all well and good that stuff happened. The opportunities come in on a random episode of Raw. Give the women the same treatment that you gave the men a few months ago.
It's such a shame. It's such a shame. This could have been so great.
And the problem is, you might say, oh, well, the women don't draw as much viewership as the men, blah, blah, blah. This is why. you don't give them the opportunity to.
Yeah.
Like, you booked them into a terrible match. Why would anyone want to watch that?
Not even to mention, you just got $1 billion from Fox, so you don't need the viewership. So give the fucking women... You didn't even give them a half hour. Give them 45 minutes if you hate them at least. They should get at least an hour and a half for this.
I know, that's the thing with WWE now, is because of this new deal, they don't need the viewers. Like, the money's just coming in. So, like, at least do the right thing. Like, stop doing what you think is best for business and do what's entertaining. Because guess what? You got the cash. You did it. You did what was best for business for long enough that you have made the deals you need to make, and now you are as wealthy as you've ever been.
Their whole Gauntlet match was less time than Rollins was on screen for his. And he was only in half of it.
Yeah, that's so true. Oh my God. You know what? We're going to leave it on that note. That has been the main event. Let us know your thoughts, and we will tweet back at you on the interwebs. Thank you for that discussion. Let's finish the show the way that we do every night with our stars of the night. Here are your stars of the night for Monday Night Raw, May 28th edition.
You just made the list!
Number 3, Seth freaking Rollins, the Red Ranger, dominated again with a great match against Jinder, and this feud with Elias looks to be super duper califragilisticexpialidocious or something. I don't know. It's gonna be great. Number 2, Nia Jax, doing great heel work, despite the fact that people think she's a bully. I don't think so. I think she's just being kind of an intimidating dick, and it works because she is intimidating and strong and a champion and badass, and I love it. And number 1, Sasha Banks. Despite my great dislike for her personally, I cannot deny that she wrestled spectacularly in what was a brief good moment of the terrible women's gauntlet match. Sasha Banks, you are the number 1 star this week. You deserve it. Well, that will do it for us here at Tag Me and Bro. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Tag Me and Bro. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, TuneIn, Google Play, and many other places. Make sure you turn on Twitter notifications so you don't miss out on any of our follow trains or discussions or GIFs or random nonsense. Absolutely go onto iTunes, give us a 5-star review if you enjoy this show, and we will give you a shout out and a thank you, both on Twitter and here live on the podcast. As always, we're eager to hear your thoughts, comments, questions, answers, so please let us know what you liked, what you hated, and what you could give a fuck about. For my co-host, John Tantillo, I have been Joe Tantillo. Thanks for listening to Tag Me in Bro, and we will see you tomorrow for SmackDown Live with Taryn O'Connor. Goodbye, Universe.
Goodbye, Universe.